Very early one Sunday morning, while I was living in northwestern Minnesota, I received a text message from my choir director. My first thought, given the time and the sender, was that something was wrong. Perhaps she was sick or injured and would not be in worship that morning. But that was not the reason for her text. Instead, she wanted to alert me to the fact that the northern lights were visible in the sky to the north of town. She figured, seeing that I was a Southern Californian, misplaced in Minnesota, I would probably be unfamiliar with this natural phenomenon. And she was right, and I appreciated the call. That morning, well before either the sun or I would usually rise, I got myself out of bed, put on the necessary layers because it was not a warm morning, and made my way out to the front of my house so that I could, along with the rest of my neighbors, gawk at the lights in the sky. Let me tell you, it was beautiful. The lights danced across the expanse of sky to the north. It was like nothing I had ever seen before, and it is like nothing I have seen since. Like all of us, I truly appreciate a sunrise casting light upon our Pacific Ocean, which I was privileged again to witness this morning, as well as the gorgeous sunsets as the sun sinks into the water. But this was different, even more amazing than what you may have seen on film, because it was a truly unique moment, a symphony of color and light. In my experience, such demonstrations of natural awe are moments when we can see the beauty and wonder of God on display, when we are reminded of just how incredible this creation in which we are privileged to live really is. I imagine that even each of us has witnessed such moments and knows of what I speak. They are special, and each of us, in the midst of the mundane in our lives, seeks the sense of the miraculous that is present in such moments. To stand and gawk, perhaps, at the wonder of God in our experience. To witness those moments of God's inbreaking into the world. On Easter morning each year, we celebrate just such a moment. And it is a special moment both in the context of the biblical story and in the context of our lives, because the power of God shines through. In the biblical narrative, we consider the activities of what that week before that began with the triumphal entry, a week that can take us down into a deep and dark place where all hope is lost, as, according to Matthew's gospel, Jesus was betrayed by a friend, sentenced to death, and the earth quaked and rocks split when Jesus died on the cross. Or in our own lives, in which we are caught up in the activities of Holy Week. Perhaps our lives are mundane in nature, as it can be like any other week. But routinely, we are busy, or in the case of my family with 2 ministers, exceptionally busy. Such activities can serve to cloud our sight, impairing our ability to see the wonder of God around us, or perhaps we are facing challenges of our own, sadness from which we see no release. Either can lead us down into the darkness. From these places, we come together on Easter morning to remember a key moment in our faith when God broke into the world, changing the course of that fateful week and upsetting the routine of our lives. A moment when God accomplished the miraculous, lifting us out of the darkness and reminding us once again that death is not the final word, that sadness and evil will not prevail. We come together to share in the joyous hope found in the story of resurrection, and that is quite a thing. And as is the case with the aurora borealis in northern Minnesota that I was describing, and far too many sunrises and sunsets we are too busy to see for ourselves, in the case of the resurrection, which, unless I am mistaken, none of us was present to witness, we depend on the witness of others to get a sense of the miraculous. To be sure, there was great meaning in the moment of resurrection itself. It is not like that old philosophical conundrum about a tree falling in the forest and going potentially unheard. And yet the story of that Easter miracle is powerful and impactful, not just because something happened, but also, and perhaps more importantly for us, generations later, because the good news was shared. First by the women who had ventured to the tomb early that morning, then by the disciples, and then by generation after generation of Christians, leading all the way to us. It was shared with friends and neighbors, with children and grandchildren. It was shared in sanctuaries, in homes, on mountaintops, and on beaches. It was shared because it represents the greatest good news we have to share in our faith tradition. It captures the power and promise, the hope present in the most wonderful phrase repeated in both the Hebrew Scriptures and the New Testament, that with God, nothing will be impossible. Think about that for just one moment. For each of us, no matter who we are, no matter our privilege or our status, each of us will face difficult and dire circumstances in life. Each of us will experience loss and the accompanying sense of grief. Each of us will experience pain in our lives. Each of us will face challenges we cannot imagine overcoming. And in the face of all of that, we have this ultimate message of hope, this promise that even in the darkest hour, we will see a new dawn. For nothing will be impossible with God. That is the message of Easter, and that is the message that we are called to embrace in our own lives, and the message we are called to share. And we know it is a powerful message because Christians across time and space who, like us, were not there to see the empty tomb or to encounter the risen Christ, have been moved by the message. And it was because someone shared the message with them and opened their eyes to see God at work in their lives. And my friends, we are not simply the messengers of God's great hope. We are simultaneously the embodiment of God's hope. For while there are moments when the sky fills with lights, when the colors span our horizon, when we witness the big and powerful moments of God's inbreaking into our world, but there are also other moments, perhaps less spectacular, but equally miraculous, when God's hope is present through the words and deeds of God's people. There are moments when we embody Christ's call to feed his lambs, as individuals reach out to one who is hungry, someone who is down in the deep, dark pit, and they offer them a meal. But more than that, they acknowledge their humanity and demonstrate the compassion of Christ. In such moments, we are God's hope. There are moments when we embody Christ's call to tend his sheep, as individuals sit one with one who has experienced a great loss, someone who is down in the deep, dark pit, and they offer them a comforting presence. But more than that, they acknowledge the frailty of our own existence and demonstrate Christ's empathy. In such moments, we are God's hope. There are moments when we embody Christ's call to feed his sheep as individuals share their gifts, tutoring a child or an adult, standing up for the rights of another, or reaching out to one who has been isolated, someone who is down in the deep, dark pit. And they offer them reassurance, support, a sense of place. But more than that, they acknowledge their God-given worth and demonstrate Christ's love. In such moments, we are God's hope. We are God's hope when we reach out with the hands of God to those in need, when we speak out and up with the voice of God demanding justice for all people, when we embody the love of God that set aside hatred and misunderstanding and embrace acceptance and a call to unity. And in every instance, each one of those hope-filled actions is accomplished by a human being created in God's image, inspired by the miraculous experiences in their own lives. And perhaps those miraculous experiences were large and impressive, like witnessing the northern lights or seeing the brilliant colors present in an ocean sunset. And perhaps those miraculous experiences were small and simple, like a hug when we were sad, or a steadying hand when we had stumbled, or encouragement amid challenges. And perhaps those miraculous experiences were not even experiences we had ourselves, but experiences someone else told us about. Maybe even a stranger. Ultimately, it matters not the circumstances. For each of us, if we keep our eyes and our ears and our hearts open, will have miraculous experiences. Each of us will see God at work in the world. And you know why I'm so sure? I know what you're thinking. Here is a minister standing in front of a congregation on Easter morning. He has to say this stuff. But my friends, that's not what it is. I mean, I'm sure I might not last long in this profession if I don't say things like this. But it's not just because it's my job. It's because, like you, I have witnessed the miraculous, big and small. I have heard the stories from you and from others. I have seen God at work in the world as people from all walks of life, from all faiths, in all circumstances, have embodied God's hope. The hope that is manifest in the wonder of nature. The hope that is present in the actions and emotions of God's people. The hope that is demonstrated in the story of Easter. The hope that reminds us that with God, nothing will be impossible. Let us carry that hope forward from this place out into the world. Let us be God's hope in and for all people. Happy Easter. Amen.